Welcome, everyone, to episode number 122 of Talking Kentucky. My name is Coleman Scott, and Caden Holmes is out tonight, and that's why I'm joined by a very special guest tonight. He's from the Religiously Kentucky podcast, and he's done all such sorts of other cool things. His name is Jay Hayes. Jay, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Been wanting to have you on for a while. How you doing?
I'm good. I appreciate you having me. I got lost in your intro music there. I was just jamming out and just
Hey,
popped up. Yeah, I
we get
love
that a
it.
lot. Yeah, we
Yeah,
get that a lot actually. Yeah, that it was no small feat picking intro music. It's an
yeah,
important thing. So you
yeah,
gotta you gotta take some time to really get the right vibe. You gotta
yeah.
fit your character as a show and everything. So
Yeah.
appreciate you saying something. Yeah. Guts and Bourbon is the name of that song. It's very Kentucky like, as they say. So
Yeah, very, very. Yeah, it had me lost. It was a good vibe. Yeah,
yeah, well, that's good. Speaking of good vibe, I like your background going on there. You got all kinds of UK stuff, the posters. You got every sport
yeah.
covered back there. Looks like.
So yeah, so this is my wife's reading nook. It's in our bedroom. It's a little loft, and so I took over. So yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm squeezed in this little spot, but it doesn't look like that. But it's my little area now. So yeah,
I like it. I like it.
I
Well,
appreciate that.
whenever we have somebody new on the show,
Yeah.
we always just like to tell your life story, really. Especially as it relates to being a Kentucky fan. So, we had Corey Price on one time, and he started at birth. And you don't have to do that; you can start wherever you want. But just tell us kind of your story.
Oh, my story is it's pretty crazy. So grew up Kentucky fan. Mother's job moved me all over. Lived out in Dallas as a kid, Virginia Beach. Lived in Colonial Williamsburg there for a while. So William and Mary right there. So fan of sports growing up. Always Kentucky fan. My grandfather kept stats growing up. He was the old school. Would watch on TV, listen to the radio commentary, that kind of stuff. So just grew up. I'm a football first love sports fan. But of course, Kentucky, and you grew up with Kentucky basketball. So played every sport as a kid coming up. And that's about it. And still started podcasting probably 9 years ago as a hobby, still a hobby. Just enjoy it quite a bit. I try to stir the pot quite often, and I do a pretty good job at that, and that's just become my character. But optimistic person. I'm one of those people that we do these predictions, and I'm always like 12-0, or yes, we're going to win it. 'Cause I just that kind of person. I never, when these predictions come out, I never was that kind of person to predict a loss. Really, now off camera and work, family, whatever, we can talk seriously about the game. But as far as doing this, I like to have fun with it. So basically, that's me in a nutshell.
Absolutely. So, well, I love that you're a football guy because I am
Yeah.
too. That sometimes feels like a sin as a Kentucky fan because we're all supposed to be basketball bennies,
Right.
as John Calipari would say. And my co-host is too. Caden loves basketball first. Still trying to get him on the football train, but that was one of my questions for you tonight. Actually, is that are you a football guy? Because
Yeah.
I certainly am. I love Mark Stoops. And I just love sort of the direction that program has gone in recent years. And obviously, we kind of took a little dip this year, but I love football, so I'm all good just kicking it off, talking some football. I know we're in the middle of basketball season, and we're
Yeah.
gonna get into that. We got time to talk basketball, big picture and immediate future here, but football. So a little bit of a disappointing year last year, but I don't know about you, Jay, but I feel like Mark Stoops can still turn it around. I feel like he's the guy for this program. I've always been a Stoops guy, but what do you feel?
So I love what Stoops has done,
Hmm.
uh, but I also feel like in the new landscape of college sports, along with NIL and transfer portal, I think we can go higher. I think we can do more. Um,
Sure.
I talk to people all the time about that. And they're like, "Yeah, it's Kentucky football. I mean, how it's I was there when it was 2-8, and then, like, I believe we can do better. Can Stoops do that? I mean, I think so. And I think this year is the year to do it. If not, I think you move on. I think there are other guys that want to take that seat. Uh, John Summerall being one of them. But
Well, yeah, that's the guy, right? John Summerall. That's who kind of everybody was screaming
yeah,
after this season, and even last year too, when it looked like Stoops was going to go to Texas A&M, right?
right, right,
Everybody was jumping on the John Summerall train.
yeah,
Do you think that is the next guy? Like after
yeah,
Stoops moves on, you think he's got? Yeah, I think so too. I mean,
yeah,
I don't see why you don't. And he's sort of a similar hire, or would be a similar hire to Mark Pope, right?
right,
Because
right,
he's a guy
yeah.
that like was a part of this program, and he understands the fan base, he understands the culture. And so do you think that would be a successful hire?
I do. I think now. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to push Stoops out because I think he's earned the chance to, prove that he still can do it. He's that tough guy that can. But how much longer do you give that? And do you grab up John Summerall before some big program does? Because that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think you're kind of in talks with him already, saying, "Hey, man, if this doesn't work out, we really want you." So, and I think he coming in, I think he is the guy to get that 10 win plus playoff conversation coach to be here. Young, upcoming winner, he's that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and we don't know how this NIL sort of landscape is going to affect college sports
Yeah.
long term
Yeah.
still. But do you see it as an opportunity for Kentucky football to get better, or do you think it's going to be something that actually makes us worse as a program?
It's still out.
Yeah.
It's changing every day. But I'm one of the people that's in belief that this is the chance for Kentucky football to get better.
Yeah.
This is the chance to be on that even playing field, so to speak. So I'm kind of with it, but
Hmm.
at the same time, it changes every day. So who knows? Really.
Yeah, yeah, it's a tough landscape, and you're
Yeah,
right. You're exactly right. It is changing every single day. All these rules, and
yeah.
but it's basically just still the Wild West right now
Right,
because we
right.
haven't really figured out how it's gonna work. But I mean, so what do you think went wrong last year? Because we've sort of said, with NIL, we can almost buy a very talented roster, which we sort of did last year. It may have been the most talented roster
It
in
was.
UK football history.
Yeah,
Uh, but for
especially
some
under Stoops.
reason,
Right.
yeah, that's definitely under Stoops. But for some reason, it went south, right? So, what's the balance of of having that talent on the roster, but having Stoops guys that actually want to buy in to the program and aren't just there for the paycheck?
I don't know because I think that is college sports now. I think it
Mhm.
is that paycheck. So you have to find that balance. You have to be that guy that can talk. Is it these younger guys? Is it these older guys? I mean, who knows? Because it's still pretty early in the process. So it's just this year. I don't know. I mean, a lot of speculation, and that's just what it is. Maybe locker room stuff. Who knows?
Yeah.
Money, NIL. Who knows what the situation is? But you're right. I think it was the best roster Stoops has ever had, maybe even at Kentucky.
Yeah.
But you can't go 4-8 with that roster. No matter, we play in the SEC. No matter with that roster, you can't go 4-8.
No, you
You got to
can't.
at least win 7 or 8.
Well, we had opportunities,
Yeah,
right? That we had games that we could have won. South Carolina. There's no reason. I know South Carolina's better. than maybe we were expecting. But there's no reason why you couldn't have won that game,
Right.
right? So that there's no reason, and even some others, Vanderbilt, especially Vanderbilt at home, that's another big one that you drop. Um, Now, I was at the Vanderbilt game, Jay, which was not fun, but I was also at the Ole Miss game. So
Yeah.
that was a very cool atmosphere to be in.
Right.
Man, going on the road and getting that win. That was one of the more unpredictable UK athletics wins that I can remember,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
But that
I
was
mean, and you're
fun.
in it with Georgia. I mean, and the way it turns out,
Right.
it's just it's awful. And then of course, all the speculation you hear, all the rumors, and I think that kind of adds to the negative and makes it kind of worse, for
Yeah.
especially for the coaching staff. Because they're like, I didn't do that. I didn't, but yeah, I think Stoops is going to be okay. And of course, this coming year, I'm going to be screaming 12-0, like I do,
Yeah.
hopefully being optimistic, but definitely better than 4-8.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the question everybody's asking, right? I mean, you can have a better, much better football team this year and maybe have a identical record or even a worse record, um, right? Because we basically play the same schedule
Yeah.
with just the home and away, flip flopped, right? So, do you think that we can actually pull off a better record next year, regardless of if we have a better team?
Yes, I do, and it's just a quick look because it is basketball season. It's coming
Yeah.
into baseball season, so I've kind of been focused on those things.
You got
But
the baseball jersey on there.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. So I'm trying to focus, especially basketball.
Yeah.
But I've noticed, I think um, the wide receiver room got an upgrade. So, yeah, that's with the guys leaving that we lost.
Right.
I feel like that's an upgrade. I feel like a couple pieces that Stoops went after for the O line and the defensive guys that he got in the portal is him showing like I'm going to show you guys. And that's just a quick look because, like I said, my focus is college basketball right now. But that quick look into it, I feel like Stoops is I definitely. Of course, you're gonna hear me say 12-0, like some ridiculous prediction, but I think 7 or 8 for sure next year. Hopefully 8 or more, but hey, I think it's a turnaround for the best.
Yeah, but it all starts with that offensive line, right?
Yeah,
That's been the problem the past few years, clearly.
yeah,
And in the early Stoops years, that he built the program up front, right?
yeah.
He built the program around that offensive line, and we sort of have gotten away from that. I mean, what do you think went wrong? Is it the passing of John Schlarman? Do you think that's
Oh,
when things really went south? Yeah, you do.
yeah, I think so. I think that's the turnaround. Something about him was very special, and letting Kentucky be known for the Big Blue Wall. Since the passing of him, it's not been the same. And then we've had a couple coaching changes. Went with one guy left, not on good terms. Somehow or another, we got that guy back and still,
Yeah,
and do you keep him? Yeah, you gotta, because it takes that continuity.
right.
You want that. So hopefully, that gets back to being the Big Blue Wall because those are really the issues that Kentucky's had over the last few years.
Man, that's something I still haven't figured out. Is what? How do we bring that guy back after he was supposedly recruiting for Alabama while he's at Kentucky? I just don't
Right.
get it. I know
Right.
him and Stoops are buddies,
Yeah,
but
and and
still,
and everyone says, "Hey, it's business," but
yeah,
I feel like business relationships can be soured as well, so,
yeah,
whatever it was, but, uh, I still hadn't seen nothing.
yeah.
I'm
I
still
mean,
waiting,
yeah.
2 years in, I'm still waiting. So you continue to wait and hopefully moves get made for the best. And I guess we'll see this coming year. Like I said, and if it don't, then that seat is really hot. And hopefully you've been on the phone to that right guy to say, yeah, it's your turn.
AFIO here says Stoops brought back Liam Cohen too. Yeah, he did, but I almost can't
Was he the
fault him.
same though without Wandale Robinson?
Yeah, no, he wasn't the same without Wandale
Right,
Robinson.
right.
But yeah, I feel like you almost can't fault Stoops for bringing Liam back though, because he didn't really. I mean, he left to be the offensive coordinator of the Rams. Like you almost can't fault him for that. Now the second time he left, now I don't know if you give him another chance after that, but for bringing him back
That
after he
seems
left
like
the
a
first time,
that
yeah,
seems like a problem though through
yeah.
the Stoops coaching. You know, how many OCs have we had?
Well, that is a problem. Yeah,
You
we've
know,
got to have
that's an issue.
continuity.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to have
So
continuity. But well,
right.
and speaking of the guy that we have now, though, right? Do you, I know we want continuity, but do you have any faith that Bush Hamden is the guy?
I don't yet.
Me
You know,
neither.
that's just kind of where I'm at with him. But you know, you're looking for that, and he, you know, credit to him. You know, you got to get in there, and 1 year is not going to do it. You know, you
No.
might see some good things, and so year two, you're really looking to see, nah, he ain't it, or wow, I was kind of premature in my judgment on the OC, but and now you're building that continuity, like you said, and so hopefully it changes because I think that has been the one of the bigger issues is OC after OC and it's just like come on man, at what point do you say, well, it's not the OC,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know
Right. Exactly. Well, uh, Jay, um, how much of that then do you think is on Stoops? Like
uh
how much of the OC stuff is Stoops calling the shots?
I've been a firm believer in Stoops handcuffing
Yeah.
the OC. I've heard from guys around the program though, but that it's not.
Yeah.
So who knows? It just when you can't keep an OC and are they really doing a good job to get a good job? I don't know so much that, or is it like I want the hell out of here? Uh, this is not, I can't run this, and so there's a lot of questions there. Now we got OC for 2 years,
Yeah.
so we'll see. We'll see. I think Stoops is changing a little bit, but how much freedom, I guess we'll see this year.
When's the last time we had an OC for 2 years in a row? If we think
Uh,
about it, was it Eddie Gran?
I believe so. I believe, and see, I liked Eddie Grant. I thought he was probably one of the smartest football minds on that staff at the time.
Well, that's another
And
thing I want to bring up is like,
that's what made me think about Stoops kind of
yeah,
holding back. Yeah.
well, Eddie Gran's looking pretty good right about now. I think he
Yeah.
got a lot of crap
Yeah.
uh for really no reason. I mean, you look at that Lynn Bowden year, right? You have to put a wide receiver at quarterback. We
Yeah.
went 8-4
Yeah.
that year
Yeah.
with a wide receiver at quarterback. That is, I mean, that is a testament to Eddie Gran.
Yeah. So I gave him props all the time saying, can the I think it was Liam Cohen. Can
Mhm.
Liam Cohen do that on the fly? What
I don't
Eddie
know.
Gran did? Eddie Gran was coaching on the fly, planning on the go because of injuries. So a lot of people was down on Eddie Gran, and I was just like, this guy is a football mind, for the things that he was doing. Uh, Stoops handcuffing him. That's what kind of made me like, there's no way that Stoops is letting the OC run the offense.
Yeah.
So and then it was 5 or 6 OCs in his time here. So I mean, who knows?
Yeah, but I mean that really was an impressive run by him. But I mean, he's back on the staff now. Is that right? He's
Yeah,
still on the staff, right? I don't even
yeah.
know what position that he's
He's
is.
he's some kind of advisor.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, it's some kind of like it's not really a coaching position,
Right,
right?
right.
It's kind of a admin position
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
for the team. But well, I'm sure hope you're right. I don't know if I'm hopping on the 12-0 prediction quite yet, but maybe you can talk me into it.
Right.
But by the fall, I feel like I always talk myself into it.
Yeah.
Uh, one thing I'm just we're sitting here talking football that I remember is how weird that first game was against
Yeah.
Southern Miss with all the lightning delay and
Yeah, I was
everything.
at that game. Yeah, it was
You
horrible.
you were there. I
Yeah.
heard the whole tickets thing was interesting too because
Yeah.
they were sending people back out to their cars and then telling some people to stay in the stadium.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it
It was.
seems like UK struggles with the communication aspect of things
Yeah.
sometimes.
I was lucky enough to get in and wait for another couple hours, but there was no communication inside. So yeah, it was definitely weird. But that's a tough situation to to
Yeah.
deal with 50,000 fans.
Oh, it is.
So,
Yeah, it definitely is. Well, we talked about the offensive line. The other position in question the past few years has been quarterback, right?
yeah,
Obviously.
yeah,
So how much of it, like, if we take Brock Vandegrift, for example, you could even talk year two Will Levis too, but Brock Vandegrift, do you think he just wasn't the right guy, or do you think it was really just on the offensive line?
both.
Okay.
Uh, you know, it's hard for a quarterback to be able to do the things that he's capable to do when he's running for his life constantly. Uh,
Right.
that then we saw Brock look pretty bad at times too. So I think it was both. I don't want to put fault just on Brock
Yeah.
with that O line, because it was pretty bad. So I think it was a little of both.
Sure, sure. Well, and Will Levis too, right? Will Levis didn't have quite the same year two Will Levis versus year
Yeah.
one Will Levis was much different. Madeline says she misses Will Levis here, but I mean, what's that, right? Is that Liam Cohen? Is that the absence of Wandale? Is it Will? Is it the O line? Yeah, those are the questions I think UK fans are asking themselves going into another year of Stoops here.
Yeah, I thought, to be honest with you, I was on the train of Wandale made Will Levis look like a great quarterback.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
I believe that.
Okay.
Uh, but Will Levis is a tough guy. He's doing it big arm, and having to struggle and do things that he did with that old line. So, once again, of course, you got to fault both. For bad play on a quarterback, definitely Will Levis having to scramble all the time because of the O line. So O line as well. So you give a little bit of that to both, but I really believe that Wandale Robinson made Will Levis look more special than he really was.
Well, hey, Wandale's from my hometown, Frankfort, Kentucky. So
Yeah,
shout
he
out Wandale.
absolute beast.
He is. Well, and he's not a big guy.
No,
In fact, he's a pretty small dude. And
yeah,
to be an NFL wide receiver that the size he is pretty incredible, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
So
Super tough.
um shout out, I got some bunch of people down here in the comments. Clyde, Madeline, Atheo, Josh, thanks for joining us tonight. Got Jay Hayes on from Religiously Kentucky. Me and Jay, you told me your story, but could you tell me a little bit about the, Religiously Kentucky's story? How'd you all start? How long have you all been going? And yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So I've been podcasting for, like I said, about 9 years. Started with a phone, didn't know anything about podcasting. So I made these little silly podcasts, talking Kentucky sports. I had little sound bites and stuff. I knew I wanted to do something different. I just didn't want to be one of the talking heads and I wanted to spice it up a little bit, be my silly self, be my silly character that I usually am. So just kept going. I had a couple podcasts with different names, Rockin' Kentucky Blue, with Michelle Brown, super great podcast person. She used to write for Cameron Mills Radio. Uh, uh, yeah, so I had UK fans all day, and then I started Kentucky basketball is a religion. Kentucky sports is a religion.
It
So it's
is.
like religiously Kentucky. And it just kind of stuck on there. Um, and that's where I'm at now. I've been doing religiously Kentucky sports podcast for three, 3 years now, 3 or 4 years now, something like that.
So that's the inspiration behind the name is Kentucky basketball is religion. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair. It is. It really is. But it's no easy task picking a podcast name though. You think
No,
it'd be pretty simple? Take some time. I mean, what was that process like? Now you've been through it a few times, it sounds like. So what do you have a method that of picking
uh,
a name?
like I'm silly. I'm a silly person. Like,
Oh,
so it's always, I kind of ran with, because I've over the years I've heard like, man, Kentucky fans are so crazy. It's like a religion to them. So that popped in my head. I kind of ran with that, religiously Kentucky,
I like it.
uh,
Yeah.
because it kind of stuck. But I had rocking Kentucky blue. That's what we do as Kentucky fans. So it's picking, and then I see all these great Kentucky podcasts out here, and I'm like, oh, that's a sweet name.
Yeah.
That, you know, why didn't I think of that? So
Yep.
it's just to each his own.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. But so are you the voice of reason or is that the other?
Absolutely. Oh,
Okay,
absolutely not.
you're not the voice of reason. Okay, who's your co-host? You got to tell me. We got to get him
Yeah,
on
yeah.
here.
So Jan Ruth is my co-host now. We also have
Okay.
JD Hall,
Okay.
who is the voice reason,
Okay.
who is the calm down Jay guy. Jan, same way. Both very smart sports guys, but they're not fanatical like I am. They're calm and reasonable, and I'm like, "Fire Stoops!"
Yeah.
Not seriously, but, I have fun with it, and they're like, "No, and this is why," and they explain it, and I'm like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, don't fire Stoops yet."
Yeah.
Because they make the most reason to me. So JD, and he writes a lot of articles for the College Huddle. You can also find our podcast there. But and Jan Ruth does the SSN_SEC site. He is actually a Mississippi State fan, and his
There you
wife
go.
is a Kentucky fan. So just super, super great guys who are just love sports.
Well, there you go. Well, I teach at Mississippi State, so shout out Hell
Yeah,
State.
yeah, yeah.
Go Bulldogs. But yeah, so man, the SEC, they say it just means more, but it really does. I spent
Yeah.
some time out west in Colorado as well, and it just wasn't the same in what was then Pac-12 country. It's just different here. Like I mean, obviously Kentucky, we're a religion. But really, every SEC
Yeah,
school is like
yeah,
that, just to some extent. I feel like,
yeah.
um, but well, I guess we probably should talk a little basketball since it is basketball season.
Right.
But and we'll talk about obviously big win, must win. Last night against Vanderbilt that we'll talk about shortly here. But let's just kind of zone out for a second and talk about Mark Pope, right? The hire of,
Yeah.
of Mark Pope. Um, if you were like anybody or everybody else, Jay, uh, you sort of were against the Mark Pope hire at first. I know I was, and then you sort of celebrated it about 24 hours in. It seemed like the whole entire fan base kind of turned on its head overnight. Or I don't know, Jay. Maybe you were on the Mark Pope train right from the beginning, but you can fill me in on sort of if you could take yourself back to the day Mark Pope was hired.
I was stunned. I couldn't believe it. Still kind of like this guy has never won an NCAA tournament game. He coaches at BYU, done a great job. I know he's smart. He played at Kentucky, but this is Kentucky. So I was just kind of like that. And I wasn't one that jumped on the train right away. I
Mhm.
thought it was pretty cool for the pep rally that they had at Rupp Arena for a guy. But it was kind of weird because I thought that was a sale. I thought that was a used car sale, uh,
Sure.
put out by the Kentucky media, and it was a feel good. The last 3 years, losing in the first round and the second round, was a terrible feeling, and we needed something to say, "We're back," in the form of
Mhm.
a pep rally and hiring a former player. That's what I kind of felt they were trying to push on me, so then it kind of pushed me away even more, to be
Okay.
honest with you, and I was like, "I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm
Yeah.
not drinking the big blue Kool-Aid," but still at the same time giving it a chance. Okay, at least I do know that Coach Pope is a smart guy.
Mhm.
He did pretty good at BYU. It's hard to recruit there and those things like that, and I kinda watched and then, um, saw some then was worried about the guys because that was another thing that they pushed, it was like, "He didn't have any time, and he got these guys from the portal," and then they started explaining why and his method to the analytics and the stats, and okay, I'm starting to buy in a little bit, um, and then he started winning games, and, I was like, "Okay," and I was still kinda standoffish, still a little bit because, he came in with high expectation because he said, "I understand the assignment." Well,
Yeah.
we all know what the assignment is, and I don't wanna be into that losing mentality thinking of, well, it's his first year and I'm going to cut him a break. No, he understands the assignment. It's banners or bust. That doesn't change at Kentucky. And
Nope.
so I kind of feel like that. But now, and I was a Cal fan, I'm still a Cal fan, but it
Yeah.
was time. And now
Yep.
we move on. Pope, in a sense, has kind of proven himself uh, a little bit. Um, so I like the direction. I'm on board completely now.
So you mentioned you weren't really sold right away at that opening press conference, and a Theo here says, "Do y'all ever go back and watch Pope's opening press conference?" I've done that a few times this year, especially after big wins. Yeah, I do it, and for me, I was actually live on this show when we hired Mark Pope. And I said live on the show, I think that's a bad hire. And of course, a
Yeah.
bunch of people said similar things. Looking back, kind of regret saying that because that wasn't true. I think it was a great hire.
Well, I mean, we kinda still don't know that yet.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Only
you're right.
only time will tell. Now, if you go
Yeah.
5 years and you've only won 3 games in the NCAA tournament, yeah, that wasn't a great hire.
Well, that I mean, you're exactly right. But that being said, the press conference was a turning point for me. For some reason, I can't really uh, say why, but I feel like in that moment, I felt like it was the right move at the time. But Jay, is there a moment that you sort of hopped on the Pope train, or have you not hopped on yet? Or
I've hopped on, but it was just recently.
okay.
I think, watching him coach with the injuries, and
Hmm.
it wasn't even a win, it was a loss that got me on board. I just couldn't believe with the guys that he was missing that we shoulda pulled that game out, and I was like, "Wow." I was like, "He is getting these 9, 10 guys on the bench
Yeah.
going," and
Mhm.
that was impressive. Even though we didn't get the win, that was impressive to me, so I was like, "W I think we got something here,"
Are you
and,
talking about Texas?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe a little before that, but just having to maneuver, with the injuries, like, constantly. Like, so you're constantly switching the lineup and rotation, and you're having to do that, and I'm just some of the things that he's done now, I've questioned some too, as a fan, but I thought that was very impressive of him. I like the coaching staff, so yeah, I turn the cup up and drink every bit of the blue Kool-Aid.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the 2 wins over Tennessee,
Yeah,
right? We haven't
yeah,
been completely healthy in either one.
yeah,
So, I mean, that's pretty amazing. Honestly, you can go
yeah.
and beat Tennessee twice, number 1 3-point defense in the country, and still win. So that is impressive. But so what about the bigger wins though? Like, what do you make of like going and beating Duke and Gonzaga, and then losing to Clemson and Georgia? Like, how do you make
I,
sense of that?
yeah, you can't really, to be honest with
Yeah,
you. I kind of look at the Duke and Gonzaga like early in the year. Like those teams are totally different teams now.
yeah,
You play a team early in there, you beat them. Doesn't really matter. Of course, it's on your record, but they're not going to be that same team in March,
hmm,
So I kind of looked at it like that. At the same time, it was impressive. We've been needing those wins over the last few years. So it was impressive. What's more impressive is, the defense has really struggled, and the defense efficiency in the Ole Miss debacle was very not good. 130 maybe, I think it was.
yeah,
Uh, so without Lamont Butler, well, he came back half a game, but just that, and without Lamont Butler and Jackson Robinson, it's gotten better. So he's like, without the defensive dog Lamont Butler, how has and not just better, but almost into the top 50. So how do and that was the point where he had the hissy fit,
hmm,
cut his hand. Out of character, I thought it was out of character of him because he's just not that guy
no,
to do that. But he did that, and now these guys, and those struggles, I think, were just effort, and
I think
we
so.
see
Yeah,
these guys getting that back without two starters.
yeah,
Great coaching, great
yeah.
coaching.
I think so too. Well, we talked about the injuries, right? So,
Yeah,
what do you think we're going to look like for March, Steve? I mean, are we going to get Jackson Robinson back? At
yeah,
first, I thought we would, but I mean, the way Pope talks in these press conferences, it sounds like, I thought Andrew Carr was never going to come back, there for a
yeah,
little bit. So
yeah.
maybe he just sounds like it, or makes it sound worse than it really is. But so do you think we're going to have? I think Kirk Carissa is kind of old news at this point. I don't think we're getting
Yeah.
him. But do you think we're going to have a relatively fully healthy roster with Carr, Butler, and Robinson by the time the tournament rolls around?
I think we will. That's what I've been kind of wanting. I didn't want these guys to come back for these last few games, or
Yeah.
maybe not even the SEC tournament. Like I know Kentucky fans scream, "Yes, we're going to win an SEC tournament." Doesn't matter. Like, like if it does, then you're okay with losing one or two players getting hurt, possibility. And
Hmm.
I'm not. Because I'd rather win in the NCAA tournament.
Hmm.
But I think these guys will be back. I think I believe hopefully we get a healthy roster to run.
I hope so too. Clyde says,
Yeah,
I'm hearing Lamont Butler will return for the Auburn game. And,
yeah.
you've already talked about your crazy, 12-0 football prediction, Jay. I'm going to make you a crazy prediction. I think we're going to beat Auburn.
I like it. Yeah. I
It's,
I mean, I
I know
just
it's
watched
weird.
Arkansas just about beat Auburn.
Yeah.
Even though Kentucky lost to Arkansas, I still feel like Kentucky is a better team. Uh, I'm with you. I think Kentucky can beat Auburn. I think Kentucky can beat Alabama at Alabama. With the injuries. That's the coaching that Pope has got these guys to play at this level, and of course that bodes well for these guys who probably should only be getting 5 minutes, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, off the bench, if that. He's got those guys playing where they believe that I could possibly start,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I like it, and I think they can, and so if a guy does go down in a tournament, I think one of these guys is going to be ready to step up, so that looks good.
Yeah. So, Trent Noah, are you a Mountain Mamba or Holler Baller
S-
fan?
s- So I like Mountain Mamba. I think that's a great name, but I
Yeah.
think Holler Baller sounds more Harlan County.
Yeah. I agree.
So yeah,
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I like Holler Baller too.
Yeah.
That's an underrated name for sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean the two Kentucky kids. I mean that's I think that really does matter having
Yeah.
kids from Kentucky on the team. I mean, you look at every national championship that we won, even most recently in 2012, having Darius Miller,
Yeah.
right, is kind of our sixth man. It we've always had that Kentucky kid
Yeah.
on a national championship roster. Now, I kind of was hoping that would be Reed Shepard last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Um, I still think it's a travesty that we didn't win any games in the postseason. I just don't see how that's possible.
Yeah.
But you know, I think we're all kind of nervous about that this year, right? Like looking in the postseason, Pope has, like you said, has never won
Yeah.
an NCAA tournament game. But are you feeling like he's going to get his first one this year?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think he will. I think this team is tough, and I think this team is one of those teams that can go game after game. Um, Even so, with the injuries, we're talking about playing top level basketball with the 9-10 guy on the bench, two starters out, one guy who is a starter, not healthy. So you're playing like that, and you got other guys deep on the bench stepping up and winning big games.
Hmm.
I like it. Of course, I mean, like, I think we're going to run, especially healthy. I think we're going to run deep.
So what's your prediction? What do you think we may, if you had put money on it?
It's banners or bust, man.
Banners a bus? You
No,
going all the way?
I believe this team is a Sweet 16. But if you can get to the Elite Eight, you can win it all.
Yeah.
If you get to the Elite Eight, then you can win it.
I think that's very true. A lot of people say, of course, that that's the Final Four. If you make the Final Four, you can win it, which is true. But,
Yeah.
let's look back to that De'Aaron Fox team, right? Bam Adebayo team. If we beat North Carolina in the Elite Eight, I think we win the title, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's true a lot of the time. That if you make it to the Elite Eight, you can win it all. Yeah, I've always kind of said with this team, it'll be that second weekend. It'll be the Sweet 16 Elite Eight.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say, because it is banners or bust at Kentucky, but I
Yeah.
almost want to say that making the second weekend would kind of be a success for Pope in
Oh,
his
yeah.
first
Definitely.
year,
Definitely.
like especially after the recent years that we've had. I
Yeah.
think making the Sweet 16 would be a checked box by
Absolutely.
from Kentucky fans for Pope.
Oh, absolutely. You win a game. Uh, of course, I want more, but you win a NCAA tournament game, I'm on board. You had a great season. You won a tournament game with the time that you had to put together a roster. I would think that would be success. Now that doesn't change from being banners or bust.
Yeah,
The assignment. You know what I'm saying? But I wouldn't. I wouldn't be like fire Pope. I would be like, that was a great season. I want more. Let's get it going next year.
yeah.
But yeah, how about we have a Final Four to go to the national title game with Mark Pope playing Rick Pitino in the Final Four.
Hey, I
How
can
about
see
that?
it.
To say,
I
I
can
wanted to
see
play
it.
you, coach,
So do you think Arkansas makes a tournament?
uh, it's gonna be hard for them to make it.
You think?
But I
Yeah.
I think they're a good enough team, and I think they're a good enough team to win a couple games in the tournament. But they
Yeah,
started out bad. So
right.
now they're trying to play catch up and get back in, and I don't know if they can do that.
Well, I saw, one bracketology had them in the first four in the playing game,
Yeah,
that maybe playing us in the second round,
yeah.
which would be something else. But
We would get payback for sure then on that.
right, right. Well, you mentioned Cal, and I think we all agreed, it was time for a change. I think it was easy for, I'm guilty of this. I think all of us kind of hopped on the Cal hate train right away when he went to Arkansas. But weirdly, I wasn't as upset as I thought I was going to be when they beat us. I
Yeah.
don't know if you feel the same way, but um, I wasn't as mad as I thought it would be. I was just kind of like, well, good for Cal, like
Yeah.
he went out, it's like he got booed. I also like, I was fine with booing him, but then when it actually happened and I actually heard it, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know. What do you feel? Like what?
So I wasn't for the booing, but at the same
Okay.
time, it's sports, so it
Yeah.
didn't bother me.
Yeah.
Like it's a sporting event. Now, if you're on the street and you're booing him, like
Yeah.
that's totally different. Like
Yeah.
what? You know, uh, I cheered for the former players in Cal up until tip off. You
Yeah.
know, then it was go Big Blue
Yeah.
because we're Kentucky fans, of course. But after the game, it was like, good game. Yeah, you got one. Hope you don't see us in the tournament because you won't win one and that one
Yeah.
either. That kind of deal.
Yeah.
But I'm happy for Cal. I'm a Cal guy. I like Cal. Uh,
Mhm.
I think the COVID and changing of the landscape, NIL transfer really hurt him a lot. And at Kentucky, you got to win, and if you don't win, it's time to move on.
Yeah.
He had a long stay here, did a lot of good stuff, not only for the basketball program but for the state of Kentucky. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that a lot. Being a Kentucky guy, still doing stuff for
Yeah,
Kentucky.
you saw the
Being in
flood.
Arkansas, yeah,
Yeah, well, him and Ellen, right, made a donation to the flood relief in
yeah.
Eastern Kentucky. So yeah,
But it
um,
was time to move on. You know,
yeah,
so
yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Um, but how about it's a totally different style of basketball that we're seeing now, like with Pope, right? I mean, it's just I mean I remember that very first game, right, when we put up like 120 or something crazy like that. I mean, even though I can't even remember who we played, even though it was kind of some irrelevant non-conference team, it's an exciting style of basketball, and we really haven't seen that kind of offense in a number of years. So it is exciting for
we
sure.
we actually saw it last year. We were
Well, you're
we were
right.
number 1 or 2 the whole year in offense.
It didn't feel
It did
like it
feel like
though.
it. Yeah, it didn't.
It,
It didn't.
it didn't feel like this. I think because
I
well,
think
I
it's
mean,
more smoother.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean, when you see like Reed and Rob, like those guys can score, but like this roster, like you have like 7 or 8 guys that on any given night
yeah,
can put up those kind of numbers, which
yeah.
is incredible.
A lot of shooters. Now there's been a couple times that I was like, wasn't impressed because and then it made me think of Cal because it was, poor execution on the floor, and the last few years, that's what we saw out of those Cal's teams was poor execution on the floor, not hitting shots, and it
Yeah,
made more talk of people going, "It's a horrible offense," and really it was just not so good execution on the floor and not hitting shots. In
yeah,
those tournament games, we had our best 3 shooters going 3 of 24.
hmm,
One game we lost by 6. So you would think the game plan was there,
hmm,
but our best shooters went 3 of 24 and we only lost by 6. Mm,
right.
so I wasn't fully on the Cal sucks as a coach and because I was watching the game and saw now Mark Pope's offense, the 5 out, the read and react, big guys. Amari Williams has to be probably the highest IQ guy in college basketball.
Yeah,
I would argue with anybody about that, and it's just the cuts and everything is just beautiful to watch. It
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 is.
really is. Yeah.
It is. And yeah, Clyde says, "Oh, take it away is a beast." Yeah, I
Oh, he
mean,
is absolute beast.
dude's gotten double figures in every game.
Yeah,
And it is, I mean, that is insane. And another guy that's kind of like that is Antonio Reeves. Both
yeah,
of those guys are just quiet scorers.
yeah.
you
I
know,
do I do like the fact that, Tegatron or Tegaowe, tries to dunk on someone every game. I love
yeah.
that because it just shows what kinda heart and kinda mind, player that he is, and I just absolutely love that.
He feels like a Cal player almost.
Yeah, he
You
does.
know, he
He
kind of
does.
feels like an old school Cal player. I wasn't expecting half these guys to play as well as they are. Ainsley Almanor,
So
you
I'm
know,
guilty. I'm
yeah,
guilty of that
yeah,
because that was a concern of mine going, a player from Drexel
Yeah.
at Kentucky, like, so, like, I'm guilty of that. And now I'm like, how many more diamonds in the rough are out there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, like these guys are, Ansley Almanor's another. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
they have surprised me quite a bit.
Where'd he come from again? Fairleigh Dickinson? Is that
Yeah,
right? I think
yeah,
so. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I mean,
Like,
the
what?
let's talk. I mean, like Pope finding these guys
Uh-huh.
and putting together this roster in that short amount of time. And he said this, and it sounds cliche to say, "Well, I'm not just going to go get any guy. I'm going to get guys that fit our system."
Yeah.
It sounds kind of like, oh, well, it's just a cop out for him saying that he's just going to get whoever he can get. No, he really did construct a roster very methodically and construct an offense that was going to work in
Yeah.
year one, right? So,
Um, and, so that was a concern of mine because I heard people say that maybe Mark Pope was too smart to be a basketball coach. And then you hear of all these analytical and stat things that he's doing. I'm like, they might be right about this guy. He might be too smart for this. The way some of these analytics are just like mind blowing, and he's just that guy, and very impressive what he did with that roster and getting these guys, and just I love this team. I mean, like they're a fun team. So
I
yeah,
do too. AFIO says with this roster from our first time seeing the roster and how quickly it was assembled, has Pope exceeded expectations? Think so?
absolutely.
Yeah, I think
I,
so too.
I say absolutely, but I don't want to be like I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to have that mentality of this is it. No, there's so much more to do. Now it's time to run deep. I want that because it is Kentucky. I don't want that like, okay, if he just wins a game or two, no, of course I'm going to be all right. But I don't want that. He said it himself. I understand the assignment.
Yep.
So I want to keep that same energy.
We'll go ahead and open it up here and maybe take a calls as we start to round a couple calls as we round out the show. Here 502-234-1504. We have a little phone line on our show, Jay. Have you
Yeah.
all experimented with that at all
Oh
yet?
yeah. Oh
A little
yeah.
bit, yeah. Sweet. I feel like it adds to the show. I feel like it's a good time, but we'll open that up. How about we were talking about Rick Pitino earlier? How about Rick getting the big win over UConn not too long ago?
We Great win. Weeks ago, I was on a podcast and they asked me my Final Four predictions, and I said St. John's, and they was like, "What?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay."
Why not? Why not? Why
And
not? Yeah.
I really believe Rick Pitino is that guy, and if he does, he will be the only coach to ever take 4 different schools to a Final Four.
I think he'll
John
do it.
John Calipari is the other coach that has that chance.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that he'll do it before his time is over at St. John's. I think he'll
Yeah,
take him to the Final
I
Four.
believe so. I think this year's
Absolutely.
the year.
And he's one of the only dudes that's still like one of these legendary old school coaches in the
Yeah,
NIL era
yeah,
that is actually still succeeding
yeah.
at that level.
It's
You know.
amazing. I'm wondering how long that's gonna last.
Yep. Absolutely. I'm gonna take this. You're on with Talking Kentucky. Who's this?
Clyde, hello.
What's up, Clyde? How's it going?
Not much. Just watching the Lady Cats beat Missouri right now, 71-65 with 29.5 seconds left in the fourth quarter.
Hey, that's another team that's been killing it this year. We haven't talked about Kenny Brooks and the Lady Cats have really been they talk about exceeding expectations in year one. They've been awesome. They're fun to watch. Georgia Amore, in my opinion, is the best point guard
Yes,
of either men's or women's basketball in the country. So
Does she have 20 points?
I 100% definitely, without even a doubt, agree with you. I mean,
yeah,
she is my favorite. She's my favorite player too. And you know, I hate that she's only here for 1 year because she is just an absolutely joy to watch. I mean, she is a straight baller, and I mean, I think she's probably, in my opinion, I think she's top 3 like all time Kentucky women's like guard wise.
yeah,
I would have to put her in the top 3 of guards. for the women's program like. I mean, I don't even think it really comes even close. But of course, Michaela Epps, she's up there too. And there was another one that was really good when Matthew Mitchell was coaching. Can't think of her name, but she was good too. She had like, I don't remember her name, but I think Georgia Amore's top 3.
Absolutely. Well, Clyde, you said in the comments earlier, you think we're going to get Alabama at Alabama. You still feel that way?
Absolutely. And, I mean, our defense has really improved since actually that Tennessee is when it started actually, with our defense. Our defense, of course it didn't do so well against Arkansas, but Arkansas went nuclear and just played out of their mind. And there's really nothing
did.
Right. I mean, there's nothing you could have done. I mean, defensively, they were just shooting everything, and there was nothing we could have done. So, I mean, but our defense has drastically improved here late in, in SEC play. And, and that's why I think, I mean, they don't play defense. Alabama doesn't. They don't play defense. And, I mean, they're just they're literally us, just the red version of us. Like, we play similar to what they play like. That's why when they came to Rupp, that's why the score was so high, because they are similar to how we play. So
that's true. That's true. Well, thanks for calling in. As always, Claude, do you have a score prediction for the Alabama game before we let you go?
Well, I mean, I like to say we'll probably win by 2. I think it's gonna be probably 100 to 100. I mean, 102 to 100. I mean,
like last time, yeah.
But then again, it could be like lower than that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like, if we play defense the way Arkansas did last night against Auburn, we have a chance. But
yeah. No, I agree. Well, Claude, thanks for calling in as always, man, and we'll talk to you soon.
All righty, go Cats.
Go Cats.
Alabama. The predictor has the ESPN predictor has Alabama 70% to 70.3 to Kentucky's 29.7. So I like Kentucky's chances even more now.
Yeah, I think so. Well, Alabama had a rough going the other night. It feels like they're kind of slipping a little bit. That maybe that Auburn win's getting to them a little bit.
Yeah.
So you never know. You never know. We might sneak in and. I mean, has any team swept us yet? I don't think so. We haven't played a lot of teams twice, so that could be another feather in Pope's cap. He might be able to come back and figure out a game plan to where you don't get beat. At least don't get beat the same way twice.
And it looks like the Lady Cats won 73-65.
It's good.
I was looking for Georgia Amore. She had 19 points, 5 assists, and 3 rebounds. Hoping she would get that 20 mark. She's had numerous 20-point games.
Yeah, she really is fun to watch, though. I mean, she's incredible. So what about Kenny Brooks? We haven't talked about him yet. Man, he's killed it.
Yeah, he has. Unbelievable turnaround from what they were. Like Mitch Barnhart is sitting somewhere going, made some great hires,
Yeah, he did.
He absolutely did. So
yeah. Well, and you got the baseball jersey on here, but speaking of a hire that he's stuck with through tough times, is Nick Mangione, right? And man, it paid off last year, going to the first ever College World Series. I know this is going to be a little bit of a rebuilding phase probably for him, but I mean, you think we can get back there though to the College World Series?
You've set that bar, so I think you have to. So I think you make moves, and I think the players saw. People got to travel here. We hosted Super Regional. Super.
Yeah, hosted Super Regional. Yeah.
Yeah. So people saw that and saw how he was treating players, and players like. They were having fun, doing weird things, the pink hats, everything they were doing. Like, people took notice of that. So I think you set the bar to the College World Series. So now you got to make moves to get back.
Well, I have a confession. I still fully don't understand the story behind the pink hats. So maybe you can enlighten me. I was a late arrival to that party.
I think it was Mason Moore.
Okay.
Just wore the whole theme around Kentucky baseball. Like, for instance, Kentucky football. Why not?
Yeah.
So Kentucky baseball was be weird.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah.
one of the pitchers, Mason Moore, I believe, wore the pink hat. Well, then someone took notice and then was like, "What's up with the pink hat? I think I'll get one." And then
Yeah.
they just started popping up in the crowd, and I think I'll get a pink hat. I got some. I got one right here.
Oh, you got one back there. Yeah. Okay. I see it. Yeah. The pink hat. There you
Yeah.
go.
So yeah, and it was just having fun basically, and winning
Yeah.
while doing so. So yeah.
Well, the year
Good time.
before, you run into Paul Skeens and LSU. It's just like, what are you going to do? You're not going to, I mean, nobody's winning that game, right? Nobody's winning that series.
Yeah, and
So
they had the weather
the weather
issue
delay. Yeah.
to help him out, and they were like, we had our weather guys going, "There's not a storm within 50 miles. What are you talking about weather delay?"
Yeah. 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 I know. I remember that.
Yeah.
But I think we can get back there. But yeah, it's fun when baseball, when Kentucky baseball's rocking. I mean, it's fun because like BBN will get behind a team that's winning.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, I remember when our volleyball team won the national championship. I mean, I had a blast watching those games. I
Yeah.
became the biggest volleyball fan on the planet all of a sudden. So
Yeah, but it's hard in baseball too because it is the SEC. I mean, it's a baseball conference. I
yep,
mean,
it is.
so it's hard for, a team to really get through that and expect to go to the College World Series. It's a hard thing to do. So when you do, you celebrate and have fun with it.
Now, who won? Was it? Did Tennessee win it all
Yeah.
last year? Okay,
Yeah.
so it was Tennessee, and then it was LSU, right? And then I think the couple years before that it was Ole Miss, Mississippi State, if I'm not.
I believe so. I think you're right.
So you're talking
That
about
sounds right.
four,
Yeah.
yeah. You're
Yeah.
talking about
SEC runs. I mean, not only do we run football,
yeah,
now we run basketball. We always run baseball. Uh,
yeah.
uh, and not to mention softball for the ladies and women's basketball. So yeah, SEC is the conference.
It
It
really
just
is.
needs more.
It
Yeah,
just means more. We'll do
exactly.
one last call for calls here 502-234-1504 before we start to wrap up the show here. But so Jay, do you think we're going to beat Alabama this week? I mean, you said you like our chances.
Yeah.
Do you have a score prediction?
I a couple games ago with these injuries going in, I think we were going to Tennessee. I was like, I don't know if we can beat Tennessee at Tennessee, and we're down 2 guys. We're going to beat Alabama.
Yeah, I'm behind you. You're on with Talking Kentucky. Who's this?
It's Theo.
Hey Theo, what's up, man? Thanks for calling in.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just sitting here watching the hockey game going on.
Who's winning, Canada or U.S.?
I think, yeah, we just scored USA.
Okay, all right. I can't say I'm know a ton about hockey, but
really, I just wanted to call in and give Colin Chandler his flowers. That kid, he has struggled so much in trying to get accustomed, I think, to SEC play, trying to get back into the swing of even basketball itself after his mission trip. And he's shown flashes every now and then, but then, he'll also make mistakes, and you'll sit there and cheer for him and root him on, and then he'll do something and be like, oh, sit him on the bench. Like, it's just it's been up and down with him. But last night, I could not be more proud of that kid and what he did. I think that's going to be a big boost of confidence for him going forward.
I think so too. Yeah, I'm super proud of that kid too. He's always been, good defensively, but he's kind of missed that offensive spark that's kind of kept him from being out there. But yeah, super proud of that kid too. I really like him, and I'm happy to see all these guys on the team really find their way this year. Even as Jay and I were talking about earlier, the guys that really should be playing about 5 minutes are even playing a big role right now. So. Do you have a score prediction for this weekend, Theo?
You probably don't want to hear mine. I'll just say
Okay.
I don't expect us to get the W. I'll just put it that way.
Okay. Well, that's
unfortunately,
fair.
I'm just being honest.
Well, we do need a voice of reason on here, so that's that's completely fair. But Theo, thanks for calling in as always, and we'll catch up with you next week. Hopefully, we'll be talking about Alabama win.
Hopefully, we're talking about Kentucky getting the W, and I'm wrong. Absolutely.
All right, man. Well, thanks for calling in as
always.
All right,
go Cats.
Go Cats.
Man,
hey, Colin Chandler.
Yeah,
he did. Yeah, Colin Chandler is big turnaround.
Yeah, the Mormon Mamba.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Yeah,
there I was like, nah.
But doesn't have the same ring. Yeah.
It was good to see him finally break through, and you said it too. He when he did get to come in, he played pretty good defense. He was just a liability on the offensive side of the ball, and it was just not fun to watch. You could literally see the struggle with him, and for him to break out through his frustration. You heard him talk about it in post game and stuff. Through the frustration and everything he's gone through, was you got to love those moments, and it catapults these guys moving forward, and then that helps Kentucky, win games. So you love to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll go ahead and start to wrap up the show here. Jay, thank you so much for coming on.
And having me.
Yeah, of course. No, it's been a blast. It's been a blast having you on. I'd love to have you back anytime. Be awesome. You'll have to get some of your other guys to hop on here too. It's been been fun.
Yeah, they're reasonable. Yeah, you'll be able to talk to them easy.
Sure.
They're not 12-0. But
okay.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me, man. It was fun. Enjoyed it.
Absolutely. We always name our shows Talkin' Something. Every show we name it Talkin' Something different. So we usually talk about it on the show. Turn to our audience to maybe name the show here. You got any ideas? I think last week we did Talking Agriculture for some reason. I don't think we talked much agriculture tonight, so we could talk talking religion.
There you go. I mean, it is basketball. Yeah.
Yeah. I think talking religiously or talking religion. What do you think?
Religion. Talking religion.
Talking religion.
I think, Kentucky people can relate.
Yeah, and we even said Mormon Mamba, so we close the show with some religion too. So there you go.
There you go.
Well, thank you, folks, very much. Go follow Jay and Religiously Kentucky. And if you're not following us here on Talking Kentucky, follow us as well. And we'll just hopefully we're talking about an Alabama win next week, and hopefully we'll make a run in the tournament this year, and we'll all be a little the exceeding expectations will continue, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully banners are bust this weekend. Cats by 9.
Cats by 9, not 90. 9. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Well, thank you, folks, very much. Thank you, Jay, for Coleman Scott. Now, for Jay Hayes, this has been episode number 122 of Talking Kentucky. We'll see y'all next time. Go Cats.
Go Cats.